Welcome to some of you who can maybe appreciate my antics, and others going, why is this guy being allowed to have the first kind of general session here at Meet Magento, Romania? I can tell you that it really makes me excited to see so many first-time visitors here, because I am Ben Marks, and I'm in the business of kind of helping to grow this little thing that we call Magento. I'm not alone in this task. We have an entire company and indeed an entire community dedicated to this. This is my contact information. As I'm fond of saying, this may be the most useful slide you will see in this entire presentation. Yep, I spelled everything correctly too, which is nice. Yeah, oh, and by the way, I do tweet a lot. I am on WeChat and WhatsApp and pretty much every other communication medium because I spend my time going around to conferences such as this and interacting with fine people such as you. None as handsome and just clearly intelligent as this audience is today. Certainly the best audience I've spoken with this morning. I am here. So you saw my slide presentation, the opening, Future of Magento. And I think conversations about the future are, they lose a little bit of significance if you don't take a moment to talk about the past. And what better place to start than with our very recent 10-year anniversary. And this is the 10-year anniversary of the beta for Magento coming out. And that was quite a moment. I don't know where you all were back then. As I get older and junior developers get younger, I remember being in the commerce trenches back then, dealing with a software called OS Commerce to try and satisfy client requirements. Indeed, this was like Guido. I am in fact also a psychology person. I don't think I went as far in my schooling, but that's my degree. So I had to learn programming somehow. And for some reason, I picked OS Commerce. This was not a great place to start. But OS Commerce was an important tool. OS Commerce showed us what was possible when you build a strong enough community around a product. The missing piece for OS Commerce was that there was never really a proper company driving the product itself. And with Magento, we were lucky to have a company that did that. So 10 years, though, is a very, very long time in the software world. It's an even longer time in the world of commerce. If you think about how you were buying things 10 years ago, I personally don't think I was really buying much of anything online 10 years ago. Maybe I was looking at a big box website or something. But what we've done since then is we've taken the power of commerce and put it into merchants' hands. We've given them direct access to their customers. That's the big part of what we're doing. And there are some milestones that we've gone through as a company along the way. So we have our launch in 2007. We have a number of things that we've done since then. As a product, we've grown. We made ourselves attractive to eBay. eBay said, hey, we'll buy you guys. And then a few years later, eBay said, it's not me, it's you. I mean, no, it's not. Yeah, you know what I mean. And decided it was time. This was when the same year that eBay spun out PayPal. They spun out eBay Enterprise, and along with that was Magento. We were acquired by private equity. We thank eBay for, well, really for all the money to help build Magento 2. Thanks, guys. But then in the divorce, we actually got some good products. We have a great team, and then we just. This change to being held privately allowed us to do a lot of things quickly. So we've started acquiring companies, and you'll see this as part of our strategy for growth. So up here we have all these milestones up to Magento shipping, which is still being baked in the oven. But with the launch of Magento 2.2, we have Magento B2B, we have Magento Social, we have even more integrations coming. So now that brings us up to where we are in the age of Magento 2.2. And so we like to point out some of our numbers here. They look good on slides. Shout out to the Magento design team. Otherwise, you'd be looking at white slides with black text. Our forum continues to grow. We actually have the person who really makes sure that the forum stays up and running, gets the bills paid. Sherry Rohde, our community manager. She has a presentation later as well, right? Good. I didn't lie. Our ecosystem, 215 events, many countries. I get to visit a lot of those and have meaningful conversations with many of you. And we are present in 180 countries. Now, this is a sign of where we are. We, as a company, have grown to dominate in business to consumer and business to business. Business to business is even more remarkable, given that it wasn't until like last month that we officially had a B2B component to our platform. It speaks to the flexibility of the software and to the intestinal fortitude of Magento developers who will make the solution fit wherever it can. So we get a lot of accolades, a lot of awards, a lot of analysts say, hey, you're doing a good job. For a lot of us, these analysts are just telling us what we already know. The analyst evaluations, those are absolutely important in big business. But for me, the real numbers, the real slide that I'm proud of is this one here. So we had, for a couple years ago, in fact, if you saw me here, maybe even last year, I believe I was talking about how what Magento powers in terms of commercial volume. Basically, people selling stuff with Magento, like how much stuff are they selling? And we, as a company, put we looked at various data sources and we said, okay, this is probably about 50 billion US dollars a year is flowing through Magento code base. And so someone got the bright idea to actually hire a company that knows how to dig into this stuff and tell us whether we were, high, low, dead on. And it turns out we were low. More than twice off. So 124 billion US dollars a year flows through Magento code base around the world. This is a big number. We, as a company, get to point to this as it kind of affirms our presence and our effect. But for me, the number that really, really matters is the one below that mere 5.1 billion. That is the Magento economy. That is businesses just in the business of doing Magento service providers, tech providers. So if you think about it, the journey of Magento has been essentially from someone's dorm room at UCLA. And they started an agency, they got a business idea, and they created Magento. And now, around the world, people have jobs. They have businesses. Developers build careers. People working in those offices themselves are able to feed their family, go on vacation, all of this stuff because of Magento, right? Because of what Magento is doing, and because of this shared effort that we have. You'll see with me, it's always a theme. It's never, it's never just us alone. It's always a journey with you. So that $5.1 billion, that is at once a very proud number for me and one that absolutely will cause me to wake up in the middle of the night and just start working. My wife can attest to that. Because that represents a shared commitment that we have to each other. If we have a misstep, it has a material impact on the people in the business of Magento. So as we look towards the future, where these numbers go, we see the market growing in the next few years and almost doubling of our commercial throughput, and then the Magento economy growing, as you see, almost 14 billion. And again, these are not our predictions. These are the ones made by analysts who are not in the business of telling us sweet stories. They're in the business of being right. So as you think about and as you plan in your businesses for the next couple of years, I want you to make sure to remember these numbers and make sure that you're a part of this journey. Now, you should understand where we're headed, like how we're going to get there. And so there's a few areas that we focus on that help us as a company head towards this destination. We're constantly innovating on our product. We're working on the product ourselves. We're working on the product with the community. We are also acquiring key technologies. Just to add to our offering, we're looking into emerging markets, and we are doubling down, trebling down even, with our community engagement. So I will briefly jump through our lineup. Most notably, we have Magento Commerce. And really, what we call today Magento Commerce, this was formerly known as Magento Enterprise and the new power generation. No, just Magento Enterprise, right? So Enterprise has become Magento Commerce, and Magento Community has become Magento Open Source. Open source remains the basis for our enterprise product. And then around our enterprise product, we've built a cloud offering. So our cloud offering is a set of tools that are put together under one vendor, namely us. And these tools used to be in disparate hands, so if something were going wrong, it was often a matter of finding first which vendor was responsible, and then working through support queues. So we have our commerce platform, and this is essentially the same one, that is available for on-premise, along with CDN, along with some monitoring and analytics tools, and then also with the additional features that Magento now has, such as business-to-business and our business intelligence apparatus. I'm happy to talk more about this with you, but this as a product is our emphasis for our company. Business-to-business, we finally have the business-to-business basis that many of you have probably been waiting for. Making Magento 1 work in a business-to-business use case was a bit of an adventure, right? Because there were just some fundamental assumptions baked in essentially at the code and process level that really looked at sort of established the business-to-consumer relationship. But what we've done is we actually went out and we gathered from all of these successful implementations and implementers, what are the base features that you need? What are the table stakes for a business-to-business installation? You know, things like being able to model customers, like model hierarchies. And I need a way to negotiate quotes. I need, as an administrator, I want to be able, or as a sales agent, I need to be able to see this quote history, what was negotiated. I need the ability to provide credit to my customers and track this so that they can order against this. I need approval chains for who can do what. And I need things like the ability for them to have quick reorder. You know, what is currently for many businesses still a matter of, you know, faxing in a sheet with some numbers filled in. We're trying to make it easy to replace that. So what we do is we built this, and we covered the whole thing with API coverage, and this means that you actually get to build against this and customize on top of it. Essentially, it's a bootstrap to B2B builds. This is a big deal. It's a big time saver, and it's literally just now included in our Magento Commerce product. It's just there. It's not a separate fee. It's not a separate module or anything. It's baked into our core. We also updated Magento Marketplace. This was formerly known as Connect, which we recently shuttered. If you've been working with Magento Marketplace, if you were working with it a few months ago to today, you should notice some amazing differences. I actually was demoing someone that was asking me about Magento and about our App Store ecosystem, and I was shocked when I pulled up Marketplace at how quickly it worked, and the fact that we have autocomplete, fast intelligence search, that we have already over 1,000 Magento 2 extensions, and by the way, we get about 300 submitted each week. So we made a lot of updates to make working with Marketplace, finding what you need easier. And then we also, underneath, in order to make it possible to handle the volume of submissions that we get, we have an expanded, an ever-expanding suite of tools. So like when an extension vendor says, hey, this extension works for these versions of Magento 2 and on these versions of PHP, we literally fire up machines against that matrix of possibilities to make sure that the extension compiles. This is a completely different experience from what you got with Magento 1 and Connect, where it was a bit of a Wild West if you were buying an extension. Many of you know what I'm talking about. We have an order management product. This is our another expanding suite of tools built for large customers who need to provide real-time stock information to people on the sales floor so that they can deal with that customer. And maybe they don't have something in stock here, but they know that there's something over here in this store. The customer can also buy online, pick up in store, buy in the store, have it shipped to their home. Think about any of this so-called omni-channel experience. It's now just becoming a standard experience. That's what this solution aims to solve, along with other logistical concerns. I can also get deeper into that product after my presentation. We bought an analytics company. This was a missing piece. Even if you're working with Google Analytics, getting the value of what you're spending money on to get people onto your store, MBI is intended to actually help you realize, even for some seemingly high-value customers, was it worth what you spend to acquire them? Where are you leaving money on the table? And like the other products, I'm more than happy to talk about that in depth after my presentation. Also, the dashboards are really nice. And I should also stress, if you have need all the data that's in our MBI system that we collect and analyze and aggregate and make really meaningful, you get that data back out. So if you need to pump that into an ERP or any other kind of apparatus, that data is also fully exposed via RESTful API. We recently launched a scanning tool. Many of you will know of Magento, which is a great tool to see if a Magento instance has the latest patches and if the server is sort of up to like today's security standards. We have this facility. We actually worked with that team, and we have a very similar facility under your Magento account. So you can actually register your ownership of a domain and run this tool. This is a great way for vendors and merchants alike to understand the current status of a Magento instance. And then you may have seen us make a big to-do about progressive web apps. And progressive web apps are, we think, the way of the future. We think this because Google thinks this. And Google has a habit of being right regularly. If you've never had a progressive web app experience, you may actually have had one. We were in the Google office, and they had me go to an Indian vendor, of a clothing vendor, and check out the experience. And first, you end up on an AMP, on advanced mobile page. Right? These are pre-cached in Google. But the experience was seamless. I clicked on a search result, and I'm in a very quickly loading, highly optimized page looking at something that was served from Google servers. But once I started interacting with this, I didn't realize, but I had jumped over to the client server, to the merchant server, and I was interacting with this very light, very responsive app-like experience that felt very natural. And the great thing is it handles offline, online. It really solves problems for low or poor bandwidth. Architecturally, it forces applications to be very nimble and to have a consistent layer for exposing all the functionality. And this is what we are building out over the next year or so, our PWA Studio. So you will see some additional API coverage coming to the Magento core, and you will see additional options for front end in Magento 2. Emerging markets, you saw a picture from Guido that had us in China. We actually did have a Meet Magento in Shenzhen recently. It's an amazingly confusing market to us right now, but we have people on the ground throughout Asia. We have teams there where we're looking to invest both in developers and in the business of e-commerce, much of which is emerging. We're seeing e-commerce really heat up in India and China. And this brings me to community collaboration. That's you guys. If you're here, you're part of the Magento community. I'll just get that out of the way. We have recently invested a substantial amount of money and people's time to facilitate the work that you guys do with us. If you've been watching Magento 2, if you've been watching the repository, you will have seen a massive drop in the numbers of open issues and a massive increase both in the number of pull requests and in a lowering of the speed at which we process and respond to these pull requests. That is actually Max and his team, who I feel deserve a round of applause. This has fundamentally changed how Magento looks at building a product. And Max will be on stage, I believe, at 11:30 to tell you more about that. But please, as the team is here, go up and talk with them if you have any questions about how to be a contributor, and whether that's just filing an issue or actually getting your hands on some code and making things better, or building new features. Please come talk to them and find out how you can contribute. And then I will close out with the Innovations Lab, which is my baby. We, until October 20th, are accepting submissions, and these should be raw, bleeding edge ideas. I've happy to have Tom Robertshaw from Mean be here because he, whether he wanted to or not, made an Alexa integration earlier this year. You know, Alexa, where's my order? And Alexa responds, and it's like, oh, you handsome devil, your order is currently in a queue on its way down from Frumblebee Lane. Sorry, I'm just being racist, I know. We're looking for making Magento work in novel places and with novel technologies. That's the idea. We don't actually want full-fledged products. We have a whole separate channel to promote that, but we want you to have to just go for it. If you've got IoT, AR, VR, whatever kind of integration you can think of that really improves the customer, the front-end experience, absolutely send us a submission. This will not be the end of this program, but we're kind of working with these innovations in batches. So I have a link up there, bit.ly.m-inno. You can go see the blog post all about it, and that links to the submission form. And with that, I leave you, as we always leave you, with pictures of at least one Dutch person, because the Dutch are everywhere in this community. They've been invading things for years. This was us, people running through the desert as we often get together and do. But just a reminder that this whole thing only works if we all just continue to push forward, and that's kind of pushing each other forward at times. And occasionally dragging. Sometimes we have to be dragged. But helping each other move forward, engage with each other. Make sure before you leave today, you meet at least one, actually, with as many new faces as there are in here, meet 5 new people. Find out what they're doing, find out their names, and make sure that you come see those of us here from Magento as well. We want to meet you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much as well. If you have any questions, can you take some questions? Yeah. Anybody?
We do have a panel tomorrow as well, and ask me anything. We'll be up there. You can solve this.
Okay, I was curious about one thing only. Mainly the review methods and the review process of the Magento Marketplace modules. If can you tell us more about this?
Yes. Oh, and this is, I probably should have sent that slide to marketing because they would have said, hey, don't forget this. So what happens is so the biggest thing is that we have really turned this into a proper business. So if you had experience with Magento Connect, whether you were satisfied or not satisfied with that, put that completely out of your mind. It's a completely different beast. So we have an App Store model, 70-30 rev share. And I think we're even looking into maybe some affiliate programs as well. But the idea is that we all have skin in the game, one. Two, this allows us to attach, to have funding for staff to work on these problems. So we have technical staff who are building they build the automated QA. So we do static analysis of the code to make sure it's well formed. And then, as I mentioned, we now do the bare minimum of making sure it installs according to the criteria that it specifies. And we also, and by the way, these tests are online. You can run these tests yourself. We do have additional tests to make sure that people aren't stealing code. That we, of course, don't publish. And then recently, and this is important for those of you pioneers on the Magento 2 platform, there has often been a delay. As I mentioned, there's about 300 extensions coming in every week. And we do have a marketing review cycle, which means that a person actually has to look at the install extension and make sure it does what it says it does. But we, the review cycle can be a bit long. If you're experiencing an extra long review cycle, please just let me know. I'll ping the marketplace team. We are all under the same boss, and that usually gets things moving. But we have a brand new, just launched patch submission process. So you can now you can submit a patch when we have an update, and that gets submitted. That actually skips several steps in the process, and it's published very quickly. So you don't have merchants sitting there saying, okay, well, I'm ready for Magento 2.2, but I see none of the extensions have been updated for it yet.
Yeah.
But we want to eliminate that.
Okay. And is there a score or something in regards to each module, or only the customer reviews?
That's a very good question. Have you been through this process?
Yeah, a lot of times.
So there is, in fact, we do try and give feedback to developers. We put our tools out there so that you can run some of these tests yourself before submitting to us. But then, yeah, you do get a quality score because different kinds of issues have different weights. And there are some issues that are just an absolute no-go, you have to fix this. And then others that in aggregate, if you get a low enough score, it's like, okay, hey, you really need to step this up. But we do try and give you that feedback. It's not just a black box of like, yes, no.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.